Hello, I'm Brett Moss, and you're watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. It's a special privilege and great honor to welcome Archbishop Emmanuel Milingo and his wife Maria Sun Myung to our studio today. Archbishop Emmanuel Milingo is a world-famous Roman Catholic Archbishop from Zambia, who shocked the world in 2001 when he married Maria Sun, a Korean acupuncturist and disciple of the Reverend Dr. and Mrs. Sun Myung Moon, who officiated their wedding. After a desperate plea by Pope John Paul II, Archbishop Milingo agreed to be separated from his wife and maintain his vows of celibacy. In June 2006, after nearly 5 years of separation from his wife, Archbishop Milingo reunited with his wife Maria Sun and founded a new international movement known as Married Priests Now. The aim of Married Priests Now is to persuade the Vatican to allow an estimated 150,000 married priests from around the world to be reinstated as clerics in the Roman Catholic Church. This is their first interview since being reunited. Archbishop Emmanuel Milingo and Mrs. Milingo, welcome to The Defining Moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being our guest today. It's great to have you here. Our topic today is celibacy and married priests now. As a sitting Roman Catholic Archbishop, after practicing celibacy all of your life, why did you accept Reverend Dr. Sun Myung Moon's invitation to be married to one of his disciples?
What I may say at this particular moment may not be understood nor accepted by many people. It's a mystery. Even that name, to say mystery, other people will not be able to accept it either. Because for the fact that I myself have been married publicly, I did not commit adultery, I did not run with a woman. The fact that I was married publicly, that is my greatest defense. I consider, therefore, the work of Reverend Moon in this particular situation of mine, I consider him as an elder who has, at this particular time, married not only me, but many others. And with this public marriage, I therefore, before all those who were present, I consider them really witnesses to my marriage. Now I have said that I look at him as an elder. So I do feel that as we attribute to elders some wisdom and some experience of life, and even the way that he made us come together, that, according to me, was something that one can get that only for the fact that having passed through many years of experience, he takes responsibility of our marriage. Now you touched the question of how did I change my mind? Did I really change my mind? When I went back, well, I said, who knows? They may be saying the truth. And I did my best. The 5 years have been a torture. Not so much because of thinking of her. No, this was not the problem. It was the fact, what I did, was it really wrong? When I noticed the way I was, treated, but I said, really, is the suffering that I'm spied everywhere, and wherever I go, I'm restricted again, and so on. It's true that they have accepted me, but I said, no, the way I was treated and the way that I myself had to behave myself everywhere, being watched everywhere, being told what to do, everywhere being suspected, and so on. I could not possibly see a day when I could once more be really happy and free. Consequently, I said, I think that the way I had chosen was the right way. So I came back.
Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that. Appreciate it. What was it like for you to find yourself doing something you probably never imagined, and that is reciting your own marriage vows? What was that like?
I was surprised. I couldn't believe that these vows, which we do in the Catholic marriage, also are repeated in the blessing of Reverend Moon. I could not believe it. But when I saw that, and giving this exchange of rings, which we also do in the Catholic marriages, and so I said, well, this is, so I find myself, in this situation, which is certainly similar. But much more, to come back to the more important is the elder. If I consider in my tradition the elder takes the responsibility. He is supposed to know all. And therefore, if he takes the responsibility, it's not only me that I'm marrying. He also is going to be responsible. He's going to induce me in something that's going to be tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you very much. After your wedding ceremony in New York, you received word that Pope John Paul II was gravely ill, and that the news of your wedding was weighing heavy on him. So much so that you traveled to his summer residence in Italy at Castel Gandolfo, and you met with him. Tell us what was going through your heart and through your mind when you had to tell your new bride, Maria, that out of deference to the Pope's desperate plea, the two of you would no longer be able to be together as you had hoped. What was going through your heart and mind?
Look, this could not happen if it was not again through the spiritual word. I have written myself a page and have tried to explain to the people the spiritual word, which for many is something that they talk about without realizing what is happening. You know that through the spiritual word, the Lord was telling this particular group who are in touch with the supernatural, please be in contact with Milingo. The Holy Father longs to see him. And of course they use the word that, you may hasten his death, If you delay to contact him, you may hasten his death. So, as I went back, they used violence. When I arrived myself at the airport, we went together with Maria, but as soon as we arrived there, they took me out, put me in a taxi, and so on. I didn't even know where Maria was. Nor did I have myself what you call my own things. Nothing. That's all. So this violence made a great impression on me. Then I was brought immediately to them. And that day, I was brought immediately where Castel Gandolfo, where there was a Pope. So as soon as I came across the Pope, he did not blame me for anything at all. He simply said, come back to the Catholic Church in Jesus' name. Beautiful way of saying it. And I saw in his words, so to say, I felt that this comes from the depths of his heart. He didn't bring to say, why did you do this? You are ashamed as you did. Never. I just kissed his feet and he said, come back to the Catholic Church, in Jesus' name. Beautiful. Of course, even myself, when I use the name Jesus, I know things change. So as soon as he said that, myself, I said, this is serious. So from there I said, okay, this is where I began to say, I'll do my best. Yeah. But as I've said, after so many years, I found out that, look, the way they treated me, they were isolating me, having spies around me, as if, almost like telling me, that it was said to other people that Milingo was not sufficiently punished for the crime that was committed, putting the church in shame. He's not accusing even the Pope that he was too lenient with me. I think it was manifested the way they treated me. So this myself, I said, no. I felt more and more out of place and so on. But it is not at all, as it is said, the church itself and the others. Of course, they were praying just as they are doing now. They wanted me to go back at any cost. Yeah, but it is the spiritual word that had insisted I should go back. And they insisted, and then, of course, I had to go. What happened to the spiritual word? When they noticed that when I came back, I was treated as I was treated, spies everywhere, and the newspapers humiliating me to the last degree, distorted anything that I said, laughing. And wherever I do something, they bring the picture of Maria. Boo, everywhere. To say, look, this one, sexual weakling, everywhere, humiliating me. This I said, do I have any dignity at all?
Okay, very clear. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate that so much. What was it like for you to be reunited with your wife in June of 2006 after a 5-year separation?
For me, and even for her, we were together again in spirit. So it was a welcome for both of us. She on my part and myself on her part. So we were together as if we were never separated and so on. So that's why there was no kind of ceremonial or even call some witnesses to bring us together. Nothing of that.
Great, thank you so much. What is celibacy doing to the Roman Catholic priesthood?
This is a bit of a long story, but I don't think that in this interview we can say all. We hope that we will find a way how we can put it. You know that the history of this celibacy, which became as a precept, is just like a little string which was to be put to priesthood. It is not the essence of priesthood, nor does it constitute as an element that gives value to priesthood. But in the history, which we are going to show later on, in the history, this has come up, called the angelic virtue, and so on. Seems to have lifted up, the Catholic Church, who consider themselves above the Lutherans who marry, above the Anglicans who marry, above the Orthodox who marry, and so, who are all, Catholics, and so on. So, in that kind of sense of superiority, which they attribute to sanctity, that is higher, that comes from the celibacy. This they exaggerate without taking into consideration that it is marriage that produces saints. It's marriage that produces saints. And the saints are not only those who are religious, who have become priests, who have become sisters, and so on. No. The saints in their daily life, even as married men, there are many saints. And when we attribute some families who have given so many children to the church as consecrated people, it is through the sanctity of the family itself. But why do they, when my own child becomes celibate, becomes a priest, feels that she's superior to me as a parent, as her father, as her mother, that she feels because she has a celibacy, she believes that she is higher than ourselves. When, as a matter of fact, all the virtues that, on top of course, when she becomes a religious, he becomes a priest, there is what we call gratia status. The person receives the necessary graces. But as a matter of fact, the initial, that is the base of her virtuous life tomorrow, is fundamentally that which she has learned from the family. And so you can't just contribute the sanctity of a priest because he has become a celibate, and of the sister because she's celibate, that their sanctity is by far higher than that of their father and mother because they are married, considering marriage as a low grade status of life. This is a shame that impression is made. And therefore, that whatever they consider the celibate, the angelic virtue, it means the rest are called laity, and so on, the married are called laity, and that whatever they can do, they will never reach such height of sanctity as the angelic virtue of celibacy. I consider this pride. The measure of sanctity is not only the kind of, let's say, abstaining from sex and so on. It depends on the love you have. And that's where the judgment is going to come. How you have loved God and how you love your neighbor. for my daily perseverance in doing good and in the name of God, and finding in my brother and my sister that same image of God, and accepting the person as my own brother and so on. So the sanctity is not only on this high class, so considered angelic virtue of celibacy, which is certainly not. Look, it has been so edifying to the priests, and some of them wept, and they gave this testimony that they had given up to go to church completely. They gave this testimony. And we had an old priest who was just sitting down, crying. And Mary went and said, why? He said he could not believe that he was able to say Mass finally, which he was forbidden for a long time. He couldn't say. He could not believe. This was like a dream to him. And this is what we are saying. So yeah, they are accusing me of pride. That myself, I'm proud. I'm imposing my thoughts on the Pope. I am acting, doing my things without the Pope and so on. But pride is exactly trying to make this celibacy as the virtue in the Catholic Church, at the cost of the loss of so many priests and so many family members who have been humiliated, because everybody laughs at the failure of your son, who was trying to be high, and today he's one of us, and so on. And then when he brings forth his children, they are called illegitimate, because they have been produced from adultery, from concubinage, and so on. It will take time to say, you, as a child of a priest, they not even allow you to be a priest tomorrow, because you are coming from adulterous priests who never respected, the church. And they have a lot of hesitation to think that even you are not going to persevere to be celibate. So they prevent someone who would like to expiate the sins of his own father by himself becoming a priest. And I'm going to put all my efforts, to purify the lineage of the priesthood, which I obtained. I feel it as a vocation for my own father. And so, no, we're not going to accept you. But this is a small matter that you can condemn somebody forever. And these poor priests, they cannot at all appeal to anybody, because the Catholic Church is power on earth. You are a nobody. You cannot appeal to anybody. But if they do this harm to you, that's all, you are finished. Is this what Jesus said? That we must be able to love one another. And whatever you do to the least of my bread, you do it to me. Are these priests not the little ones to whom we do all this? Why are they considered, as people who cannot be looked at as people who have got a name?
Beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing so honestly your feelings about that. I really appreciate that. How hopeful are you that the Pope can find the wisdom, humility, and courage necessary to repeal the man-made celibacy law?
They must go back to look to what Jesus Christ himself, who calls the church itself, calls the priest after Christus, is another Christ. The priest is another Christ. If he is another Christ, he has to carry on the mission of Jesus Christ, to preach the gospel, cast out the devils, and heal the sick. And we need the priest to do that. And Jesus has put in front his apostles. And with this, he confirmed them through the coming of the Holy Spirit, gave them courage, fortitude, and perseverance. And as a matter of fact, all of them died for the faith which they had embraced from Jesus Christ. And if this is the nature of a priest, that he must be in the forefront in the fight, it is necessary that the church has to see to it that which prevents the priest to go with courage to face the world today, and for 1,000 years, has been this wound that comes from maintaining celibacy, and without looking into the problems of the so many sins which have taken different forms, committed not only homosexual, not only lesbianism, or not only all the other that have come. There are a lot of other sins which have come about, which at the same time we feel this cannot be continued because they contradict the vocation of the priest. The priest must be himself the leader of the flock and give good example, loving, and so on. And in that way, we are able to expect to realize the aims of celibacy. But the celibacy, as I've said earlier on, is just a little string that is attached to priesthood. And consequently, now it has consumed, so to say, it has consumed its only babies. That is the priest. And now the church is running short of priests. But today, the thousands and thousands of priests are wounded soldiers. And the church, therefore, has to find ways and means how to rebuild them, construct them. And the only way is to take away the key of the problem, which is celibacy.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Last month, in September of 2006, you received word that you had been excommunicated as a result of your ordination of 4 married priests to the office of bishop. What is the significance of that excommunication notice to you?
Look now, if I look at what excommunication historically has done, it is the responsibility of the Catholic Church itself that the last testament, the will of Jesus Christ in John 17, that there may be one, like you, Father, and I, we are one. That is, this unity is destroyed, has been destroyed historically by the introduction of this word excommunication. They excommunicated Luther. And it is said that Martin Luther, had no intention at all. I read it just recently in the history of the church. Luther had no intention at all to go out of the Catholic Church. He was just pointing out the abuses of indulgences. And he wrote very, very clearly, this doesn't go, this doesn't go, this doesn't go. And therefore, what he wanted, he said, can the church accept renewal? And he put publicly the thesis, 95 theses. He put them there, that they should be able to see. They could simply call him, here you are right, here we don't accept it. But this urge from within of power and authority to show its way, who have all the truth, that's all, they condemned him. And the result is, it has been very long, very difficult to include the Lutherans and call them separated brothers. But it's you yourself that had caused the problem. Whatever doctrinal difference there is, you are looking at it now. Of course. And you put yourself, you are the one to tell them, look now, we can accept you. You give the condition yourself to the Lutherans that we can accept you under this and that condition. And you don't want to. There's something with the Anglicans. Of course, the whole history, I know. Others, I don't want to mention the people that slowly, separated and did not want influence of the Roman Catholic and so. They condemned the Anglicans, put them that, and so on. We don't talk about the others, Presbyterians, whoever they are, and all the rest. So the responsibility of the destruction of the will of Jesus Christ, that there may be one, like you, Father, and I are one, is the Catholic Church through the power and authority of excommunication, which they have never learned the lesson from there. They are still using today, that they are the ones who are destroying the unity. So the destruction of the unity of the church has come from this power and authority of excommunicating. Milingo, with the 4 bishops that he has consecrated, has no intention at all to separate oneself, from the Catholic Church. No, because it is a right that is a birthright which we have as Catholics. It's a birthright, so nobody can destroy it from inside. We are Catholics, whether you want or not. It's a birthright. I mean, you can't say the children which are born from you, and one day you say you refuse them. They are not your children, when they are carrying your blood in you. Are we agreed?
Very clear. Thank you. Thank you so much for your honesty and your frankness in expressing yourself like that. I appreciate that. What has been the response so far to married priests now?
Marvelous.
Tell us about it.
Just beautiful. Look now, we have received some condemnation, particularly those who are living under the shadow of the Vatican from Italy. Oh, some of them have already called me, oh, devil, reflect, and so on. And of course, I've received a letter telling me that I'm proud and that I must be humble and so on, and that I must remember that before long I'm going to be judged, and I must remember the time of death that is going to be looked into seriously. Because, I've scandalized this one, I've scandalized those, I've scandalized that, and so on. But look now, this is scandalous pusillanimous, because they have to wait and see, what is it that I myself am doing? I myself, as an individual, cannot at all tolerate the things which are happening in the priests and among the priests today. One country has said that because they made a vow of chastity not to meet women, but they can marry between themselves, man and man. So even within the priesthood, there are pairs of the homosexuals. And they're arguing like that. Yes, they say because, myself, I promised that I'm not going to touch a woman, but at least I can marry my fellow man and so on. So that, can the Catholic Church as a mother be indifferent to that? What Milingo is saying are facts. I'm not just saying this because I want, to look down upon the Catholic Church. No, I'm saying enough is enough. They take away the cause of all this is celibacy and so on. Give it up, make it optional. Those who will choose it less, they will have it, but not to impose. Because this is grave. But what is my personal push? What is it, what they call it, spinger? What is it that drives me to do this? I am putting myself in the shoes of Jesus, who was called a priest, arter Christus, another Christ. And if they are other Christ, he expects them to have a certain standard. And we believe ourselves to reinstate them does not mean just to say, come in. We are going to say, remember, your life has been this, for what you have suffered now, compensate during this time to lead a life worthy of a priest. And St. Paul is analyzing what a priest ought to be, just as much as what a bishop ought to be, and so on. We are the letters of St. Paul to Timothy. We're able to get that. Saint Polycarp of Smyrna, who was the disciple, so say, of St. Ignatius of Antioch. Dear Lord, when he speaks of a priest, it's so beautiful, so beautiful. You don't have all this nonsense that we have within the church. People who display outside as priests, but at the same time, they're leading double life. No, what you call it, Polycarp, saying it very, very clearly. And he presents it in a wonderful way, what a priest is. Following as well what is said to Timothy and everything. So we've got a standard that a priest ought to be. When we are speaking of married priests, we're not going to reduce priesthood again to a lower grade. No, we're going to uplift it as much as we can.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Archbishop Milingo, Mrs. Milingo, we're out of time. Thank you so much for being our guest today on the Defining Moment. It's really been an honor to have you here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless you both.
Thank you.
You've been watching The Defining Moment for Creating the Culture of Conscience. You can find us on the internet at www.definingmoment.tv. Thanks for watching and have a great day.